Hello, everyone. Ingrid Boudet here from No More Noise Toronto, and here to give you a summary of the amplified sound meetings that we had on February 21st and 22nd, 2025. So I'm going to quickly go into an introduction of No More Noise Toronto, amplified sound, then we're going to go over some of the comments that we received and where we go from here or next steps. I had to have the let's be nice to each other banner because amplified sound's a tricky thing and people think that we're trying to stop music all in its entirety. And the answer is no, we really just want to sleep at night, want to enjoy our homes. So a good note though is that everybody behaved themselves and we all had supporters in the group. So I do have a Mentimeter that is going on right now. And if you happen to take this, see this in the next 14 days and want to take the Mentimeter, you're more than welcome to. I am going to quickly show you some results. So let's get into it. So No More Noise Toronto, if you don't already know, we're focused on the noises that keep us up, wake us up, and disturb us day and night. And we are data and process oriented. And we've grown to over 1,550 supporters with the support of FONTRA and FOSTRA, the Federation of North Toronto Residents Association and South Toronto Residents Associations. And we're engaged in the civic process at City Hall. And using our collaborative approach, we've developed some good relationships with 4 city divisions: Bylaw Enforcement, which is the municipal licensing and standards folks, the Toronto Police Services, Toronto Public Health, and Toronto at Your Service, which is also known as 311. And that is basically the front door to where we are told to go to make our noise reports. We're very thankful to also collaborate with Civic Tech Toronto, a volunteer organization that contributes their techie skills for good. Esri Canada, all of the most of my website content and all the mapping and the dashboards that you see, that's all Esri functionality. We've done 2 podcasts for Esri Canada and 1 for Esri Inc. in the US. We're also working with University of Toronto and Toronto Metropolitan University. I work with students and they help me with creating some of this Esri functionality and the surveys and reports that you see. And Gas Busters are the gas-powered lawn equipment people, leaf blowers basically. And so you can visit them at gasbusters.ca. And Quiet Communities is the largest anti-noise organization in the US. And you can see them at quietcommunities.org. And we're deepening our relationship with them too. So kind of little tiles. So here's the overall website, and we're making a new one, so you'll see a new version of that in a couple weeks. So you can look at our working groups if you want to have more information on those. Also look at our noise calendar for the events that are coming up and recordings of past events. So here we have our 3 different noise sources that we've been working on so far. We will be adding a web page basically for each one of these. And just to scroll further down, if you want to look at where we've been in the media, here you are. If you want to take a measurement with your phone, this will give you 3 different choices to do that, and more information on our data and Not 311 noise report. So let's hop into amplified sound. Amplified sound's a little bit tricky because it's also a big industry in Toronto, and it also, I mean, music, we've all probably gone out and danced a time or 2 in our lives, so it has a place in our society. It's just a question of how much does it interrupt and impact our health. And this picture here is from Just for Laughs, which was a 3-day comedy festival that was down in the St. Lawrence Market area. And some people had to live through that for those 3 days, and it was literally in their homes, and that caused quite a stir. So for some people, when they see those kind of images, it actually does cause stress and anxiety. And so amplified sound, as I was mentioning, there's late night businesses, but there's also like local establishments, there's party boats on the lake, or also sometimes people are now in your local park playing music into the early morning hours. There's now, portable speakers that have deep bass, and they can pump out some serious sound. And some people just feel like they can put those up and play whatever kind of music they want. So it's complicated. And also sometimes when the party is over, a lot wrapped up in the night economy. So let's get into it here. We are always interested in your noise experience and your noise stories. So we actually have a survey that's going on today. And we're also looking to start up a working group with amplified sound, because amplified sound comes on land and from the water. And on land, it's not only from establishments, it's from public spaces, it's from private homes. So, you know, there's a lot of different nuances there. It comes from outside your home and also between walls. So there's lots to work on with this particular one. So let's jump into the noise bylaw. The noise bylaw for the City of Toronto is, you can look at it in its entirety here by clicking on the button. But basically what it is no person shall emit or cause or permit the emission of amplified sound or instrument sound measured with a sound level meter at an outdoor point of reception in a living area that has a sound level expressed in terms of LEQ, which is an average, exceeding 50 dBA or 65 dBc from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., or 55 dBA or 70 dBc from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So really, what is an outdoor point of reception in a living area? Well, for some people, that might be your porch, or it might be your backyard. But for some people, it might be your balcony. And for others that don't have a balcony, well, then it's got to be taken from inside. And I'll go into this later about the whole enforcement process, but it's complicated. So we'll get into this, because what they need to do is they need to actually determine the level of music separate from the ambient sounds. So for example, if there's a banquet going on and they're playing loud music, but there's also lots of shouting and laughing and talking, it'll be really hard for the bylaw officer to separate what are the sounds coming from people and what is the noise level coming from the amplified music. So I like to draw pictures and show workflows. And so this is the kind of what I've said is the workflow for amplified sound right now. So here, imagine we take a scenario where it's 12:30 in the morning and it's Thursday. So you know you need to get up in the morning and you're not happy. And the beat goes on upstairs or outside or whatever it may be. So you're thinking about calling 311, but you really don't know what the whole process is. What are you getting yourselves in for, right? So some people will report to 311, some won't. If you do, there's 3 priority levels that the city uses as a priority action approach. So once it goes into 311, then it goes over to municipal licensing and standards, and they have those 3 levels. We don't really know what those are, and you won't really know what level it lands, what level your report lands on their radar. So a bunch more question marks. But what we know needs to happen is that they need to come and do a measurement. Well, they may not come and do a measurement. They certainly won't come that night, and they may come within about the next week. So if you reported on Thursday night at 12:30 in the morning, they may want to come on the next Thursday night at 12:30 in the morning. And again, going back to that, where's the point of reception? Well, if that's on your balcony, then they're coming into your home. If it's on your porch, maybe not. But that's just where, and you will have 2 bylaw officers in uniform come into your home. So they will try to take a loud measurement, let's say, and let's just say it's raining. So, the doors are closed, the patio's quiet, not much is happening. So depending on the assigned priority, weather, etc., this can be a week or longer to get a loud measurement and an ambient measurement. So they're going to try and come back until they get those. So that could be a week, could be longer. So then let's say they do get both the loud and the quiet measurement. In the meantime, the beat goes on. There is no break. They are not spoken to. Nothing happens until they get those loud and soft measurements, or loud and ambient measurements. And then we don't really know how much you're updated. Like, you might hear something, you may not. But in any case, no matter what happens, they might be fined, they might be spoken to, but if they choose to challenge it, that means it's got to go to court. That means they're charged. And so this is where here we don't know what happens. And this process can be drawn out for years. Literally, I've heard from people say years. So in the meantime, the beat goes on, but you don't have any sleep, and you don't know, you don't have an outcome. You don't know if they were fined. You don't know if they were fined, what that fine was. Are they going to court? Are they going to lose their business license temporarily or permanently? No change on that part. So this is a good example of where the city has prioritized the corporate agenda and the corporate profitability over public health, because in this whole time, you're not sleeping and you're not going and you're not having good days. Some people say, oh, music brings the good vibes. Well, not when you're the one who was kept up by them the next morning and you got to go to work and maybe got to do a presentation and you got to be on. It's just not fair. So the city is looking at supporting the night economy. And so what they say the night economy is the social, cultural, and economic activity between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And there's three main objectives of supporting the night economy: to plan the night, to coordinate a strategic approach between municipal services, transit, all those other things to enhance 24-hour activity, protect the night, which means provide support to Toronto's nightlife to support a safe, respectful, and inclusive and positive environment for all residents. So in my conversations, call the community where the businesses take place and where the events take place as the host community. So it needs to be a positive environment for all residents, including those living in the host community. And then they want to create the night by building a foundation that encourages a vibrant nightlife. A lot of people are concerned about this word vibrant because a lot of times to them that means loud and that means no sleep. So I think we need to look at how we can make a vibrant nightlife that doesn't equal decibel levels. So Dr. Arlene Bronsaft is a noise activist from New York City. She's been doing this for decades and she's well known. And so she was invited to speak to the Responsible Hospitality Institute, which is a national organization. And so it's an interesting podcast and I encourage you to listen to it, and you can do that by clicking this button. The zoning laws were updated last year in the fall, and this was done because they were decades out of date and they weren't accommodating, or they weren't acknowledging today's business practices. Businesses have changed a lot. Music has changed a lot. So for example, a venue or an establishment that was kind of a bar but had a stage at the back, and and they had live music and they had bands on a regular night. So they weren't quite a nightclub, but they weren't quite a dance hall, and they weren't a pool hall, and they weren't a restaurant. Those kind of businesses fell through the cracks. So with this new legislation, they're now encompassing in that. And so in this new legislation, they've got two basic noise control plans. That's level 1, and you can see it's basically an acknowledgement of the noise bylaw. They want to have availability of community-based mediation services and information that identifies all soundproofing or amplification equipment on the premises. Level 2 applies to nightclubs and similar venues. So I'm not sure if that's a restaurant that turns into a nightclub, because now we've got these resto bar things. So there they want to have identification of maximum noise levels, wattage of equipment, and sound insulation method. But you see here is that, to me, that's not enough, because they haven't prepared the business nor established the connection between the business and the host community. And so here are items that are to be made available upon request by the Executive Director of Municipal Licensing and Standards. That's Mr. Carlton Grant, and he's got over 600 people that report to him. He's got maybe the busiest amount of transportation services, and all that is pretty busy too. But MLS is a pretty busy division. So I think all of these things should be made mandatory, and before the businesses have their license. So they need to understand what they will do to alleviate excessive noise, to monitor the exterior of the premises, to engage with nearby residents, and how they will respond to persistent resident complaints. Everybody knows that you need to complaints, and they've gone through that process that I showed you before. And now this is upon request. How long are they going to give the business to do this? 2 weeks, 2 months, who knows, right? So that needs to be taken care of. The city also has developed what's called a Good Neighbor Guide, and it's mostly a go-to resource for businesses. I've had a look at it, and they don't talk enough about the host community as well. So we're talking about outdoor dining and music, minimizing sound and noise. They talk about outside your venue. So this is patron control and line management, and picking up the garbage after everybody's inside and outside. And public washrooms, that's a really big thing. A lot of people talk about how, sure, the business closed, they closed their doors, the washrooms are done, and then these people have to go to the washroom. And guess where they do that? People's front yards, their laneway. So, and then there's also resident and neighbor relations. One of the good things that has happened is that we've got an external group for the night economy. And this is where, thankfully, No More Noise Toronto is a part of that external working group. And we've been able to share with them that residents want to know when stuff is happening in their community. And so Councillor Paul Ainsley has been a great, great advocate for transparency in data, both from 311 and MLS. And so one of the things that we've done is now there is a map of the liquor license applications in your neighborhood. And this is forward looking. So you can see if they've applied for, let's say, a festival in May, once they've applied for that, you will be able to see that and see the dates. So not everybody can leave town, but I've heard from people that if they knew about things in advance, they would leave town. So at least that gives the information to the people that can leave, that they have the dates and know what and are able to act accordingly. This is separate from noise exemptions though, and I'm going to try and get that map up for everybody because that is also very important. A liquor license application doesn't necessarily mean noise exemption. So we need to understand that. So as I mentioned, I take measurements with meters, and every kind of noise and every kind of sound has a certain type of signature. So in the image on the right there, you can see that's amplified sound. A little bit moreover, on the right-hand side of that picture is you see some spikes. That's probably modified mufflers. That's generally what they look like. But in the amplified sound here, you can really see that up and down. And this is taken from 10 o'clock to 10:40. And the sound level was at 45, and then it went up to just about 60 consistently. So, and this was taken inside somebody's home because they did not have an outdoor point of reception. So this was what they experienced inside their home. And we generally talk between 50 and 60 decibels. So this was interrupting conversation inside someone's home. And as the average for that sound event was 52.4, that was in contravention of the noise bylaw. And sound is measured in a logarithmic scale. So any kind of a jump is literally a doubling of the sound volume. So I also have put this information in here on the Downsview Live Nation venue. So they're constructing a 50,000 capacity open air concert venue in the Downsview area. And this is a temporary structure that's going to be built up and taken down every year for about 5 years. And though the stage will be pointed north in line with the orientation of the runway, the location of the nearest residential properties from the stage will be approximately 700, 800, 670, and just over a kilometer away from the stage. And this is what a resident or what a No More Noise Toronto member has put together. So I'm very thankful to them. So this kind of deep bass and electronic bass travels a long way. It goes through glass, it goes through concrete. And so depending on which way the wind is going, these people will be part of the party, whether they like it or not. If you're watching this before February 25th, there is a Live Nation Canada Community Town Hall hosted by Councillor James Pasternak. And here's some information on that. No More Noise Toronto is looking to do a press release to let the media know that this is happening. So for all of these scenarios, there are solutions to them. And one of the first ones that I see as possible is sound level monitoring, area sound level monitoring. And so remember the workflow that I showed you before where bylaw officers have to come in and you need to report and all this other stuff? Well, what these instruments do is basically, if you look up into the screen here, I'm just going to show like if this was a street light, the light is shining down. On top of it is usually like a node, a hub, you could say. And what they can do is put in a sound level meter right there. So it's got power, which means it can transmit the data through Wi-Fi. And so what that means is that in problem areas or in new areas, because the city wants to expand nightclubs to North York, Etobicoke, and Scarborough, and they haven't figured it out yet in Toronto, so it's coming to a neighborhood near you. So this is a way that we think that they could put these sound level monitoring in these areas. So what that does is it eliminates our need to report for noise. So what it does is if the noise goes on here, basically the sound level meter is just listening, and it's just sound levels. It's not conversation, transmits that data to the cloud, and it goes directly to the bylaw officers' desks. And there can be alerts for noise over a certain amount. And then that can alert the bylaw officer to go and pay a visit to them rather than going to people's homes and seeing and that that whole scheduling thing is also difficult, but going onto people's homes and trying to get these loud and ambient sound level measurements, it's just complicated and it just simply doesn't work. So imagine if we had something like the area sound level monitoring, and then that can go directly from the bylaw officers to the ticketing, charging, courts process, which incidentally also needs to be cleaned up. The other thing is that there's also a new thing called like headphones or silent concerts. And this is where they basically have the over-ear headphones on, and sometimes they've got colored rings on them. And so, for example, so for this Downsview, they could all have these headphones on, and they can be listening to the music, and it'll be great. It transmits the sound clearly. And they can blast it as loud as they want. The other example that I've heard is when they can kind of have different music going on in the same club. So if you have a red ring, you're listening to country. If you have a blue ring, you're listening to reggae or whatever. And so then people can dance together to the same music that they are listening to and that kind of thing. And then wouldn't that be amazing though? Because then you're in a club and you can actually take off those headphones and talk with somebody. What a concept. So there's solutions out there, and No More Noise Toronto is certainly advocating for technology as much as possible, because there's no amount of people resources that will fix the amplified sound or many of the other problems that the city's dealing with. And finally, we know it's important because we need to protect our health. If you can't get to sleep, that affects your mental health, it affects your cognitive functioning, and it affects your physical health. So with that, I'm going to go quickly over the results that we have of the amplified sound survey so far. We got 40 responses. And a couple questions here. During July and August, how many nights do you hear amplified sound between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. during a normal week? For many people, the most is 5+ nights. How do you get to sleep? How do you function with that? And then most people do hear it from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. and that's normally when the bars close. But some bars get alcohol exemptions, and they think that means a noise exemption as well. And then it are the big nights. And here's more about the health impacts. So, have you noticed any changes in your sleep quality due to this noise? Severe disruption, of course. And have you been unable to work or not perform your activities of daily living due to this noise? Yes, 85%. So if your data and your noise story isn't in here, please take the survey today, and that would be great to add to the data points. So, in order to help, you can join the choir by signing up for Noise News and signing up for one of our working groups. So that would be great. I'm going to quickly now jump to the Mentimeter and show you some of those results. So I'm just going to hover down on the instructions here. So in case you want to do it right now, you can scan the QR code with the phone, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code of 47964933. Okay, so let's see what the responses are so far. So we had 11 responses, so I'm always curious on how people hear about No More Noise. And so it's friends, Facebook, can't remember, others, there's journalists, podcasts, those things, so I need to add a few more. I always want to ask what interest group people represent. So we had an other, which was a journalist, and then 6 residents and 4 resident associations. I love it when residents associations show up. You guys are very powerful. So where does amplified sound that bothers you originate? Well, bars is the biggest word. So clearly bars are the worst. And remember, they're not nightclubs. So they have a whole, now they have noise bylaws that apply to them and zoning that applies to them. And you can see all the other outdoor ones, but there's a lot here. Outdoor patio of restaurant, outdoor backyard, neighbor gathering, nightclub, Barb Hall Park, parks, picnics, patios, horns, so it's varied. I'm surprised there wasn't anybody here that says the lake. So, but I know there's groups down in the waterfront that they have a lot of problems with the party boats. So how often are people disturbed by amplified sound in the summer? So it's a 2-part question. There's a summer question and a winter question. In the summer, 7 are frequently, 2 sometimes, 2 almost all the time. Where in the winter time, that goes to then 1 rarely, 6 sometimes, 3 frequently, and 1 almost all the time. And if you happen to be like a person that is in No More Noise who bought a condo above a bank, they thought, great, nice and quiet. Well, then the bank moved out and a gym moved in. So every morning they get woken up to the spin classes. And or maybe you have a resto bar that moved in next door, you know? So anyways, it can happen year round. And then the question here, have you thought about moving somewhere else due to amplified sound? 7 people said yes. And this is normally the answer when I ask this question of any noise source, because we have no defense. We can't close our ears and our bodies never stop listening. So we have to move. And so maybe you can go somewhere where there's no amplified sound, but you'd be really hard pressed to find a place where you won't hear a modified muffler. So here's some of the comments that we've had. One person needs to leave town at every Pride event. The whole summer is painful. Noise triggered depressions, great initiative. The King and Portland area gets worse and worse every year. So I'm not going to go too much into these now, and I'm going to just hop back to my presentation here and go into the comments. So what we heard was that the festivals need to be managed better. We need to get MLS community and have more community consultation, improve the bylaws and enforcement, and get your counselors support. Neighbor to neighbor noise is a really big problem. Again, those loudspeakers, whether or that portable music, whether it's a boombox in the park or in your neighbor's backyard, that can bother you. And somebody mentioned a really good description of 2 types of amplified sound that they live with. One is the predictable, and that's the restaurants becoming nightclubs on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. And then the unpredictable, which is banquet halls having events. You just don't know, and now they're doing a lot more things outside. And so then that can transfer into people's backyards and then into their bedrooms. So the enforcement process and the course process needs to be fixed. Shift workers, we need to consider those. Those people that are working at night need to sleep during the day. So maybe we need to consider lowering the decibel level 24/7 in Toronto. Somebody also mentioned the ombudsman, and I've got a link to that there. And we looked at that. You need to try to resolve the issue with the city before this is an option, and the city can drag this out for a very long time. And then we talked about the noise level measurement idea on top of a light post. And so somebody was in the group from Councillor Francis Nunziata's ward, and he said that she likes to test things out. So maybe that's where we go. Some people also said that the non-emergency police response can sometimes help, especially with the neighbor to neighbor noise. And 311, well, you know, you log the report. And I've heard that people are actually discouraged from logging the reports, that even the 311 operator said, have you considered moving? You know, no, that's not the answer from a 311 operator. So they also have been known to close cases without adequate resolution. And this is where somebody was saying, and I really like this, we need to rebuild a culture about caring about each other. And so if we want to say, okay, amplified sound and music has a place, that means you also need to respect our side of the equation, which means we also deserve to have sleep. So caring about each other. And finally, these people don't party every night. They also need to get sleep sometimes. And then somebody else mentioned noise and culture. Why has music gotten so much louder? Now it is being pumped so loud in restaurants. And I read an article on that, and they say it's louder because people drink more. You don't talk, so you're drinking. And also somebody just said they went to a concert and it was so loud that they couldn't enjoy the music. And I don't know about you, but in my news feeds, in my Facebook feed, I have ads for Loop, the earplug people, and they say go to your concerts with this because it will protect you from the loud noise. Well, how about we just don't have people make them protect themselves? Again, caring about each other. Let's have the businesses care about us, and then we would be good patrons to them. Okay, so what are the next steps? So this is all ramping up to a Board of Health meeting on April 1st. So I am looking for each working group. So that's amplified sound, that's waste collection, that's motor vehicle noise, to create a list of requests / recommendations that we can use in an email campaign for the Board of Health meeting on April 1st. I also need a list of emails that should receive this letter. And so this is where I can actually create a custom to list. That could be 5, that could be 20 people long. And it's specific email addresses, so we can land it in their inbox, not just at an info@toronto.ca or something like that. And the campaign software will automatically add people's counselors if they put in their postal code. So in this campaign will run from March 25th to April 1st and possibly beyond. For the noise bylaw review that we had, we sent over 14,000 emails. I would like to send about 50,000 emails. I think that would be great. And that's each one. So if one person hits send and then it goes to 10 people, those are 10 emails, just so you know. And then I'd also like to really have you consider thinking about speaking on April 1st. This is the way to make the best impact. Counselors hearing your noise stories of how frustrated you are about the noise that invades your home, bar none, is how change happens. So you can learn more on Thursday, March 20th at 7 p.m. or on Saturday, March 22nd at noon. And this is when I'll be hosting webinar meetups on, we'll go over the Toronto Public Health Noise Action Plan, which is what's coming to Board of Health on April 1st, and also how you can register to speak and how that whole workflow goes to set you up for success. So this is what you can do to help us. And you can also join the groups. So you can join a working group. And what it is access to a Google folder that has each noise source has its own folder. And so I'm granting access to people for comment privileges. And you can go in and have a look, and you can help write a press release. You can help creating emails. You can help add media contacts, all of those things. We need lots of hands on deck in order to make the kind of good noise that we want to. And finally, when we make that good noise, we create a better Toronto by reducing noise. So finally, I want to thank you very much for listening, and thank you for participating in the working groups. And I wish you all a very good day, and I always wish you a very good sleep. Thanks so much. Take care.